Hi there, I'm Freshie Juice, femdom and artist based in the Northeast.
Zipper Magazine.
I am most well known for doing bondage, blasphemy, extreme predicament, and role play situations. I'm very excited to talk to Zipper Mag today about my work and various aspects of bondage and some more extreme kinks. Probably what first attracted me to bondage was I loved the way it both considered in accentuating and restricting a person's anatomy, both in allowing the top to have control of the bottom and the bottom to surrender control. Personally, the kind of bondage that I love very, very restrictive, completely immobilizing bondage. I'm very flexible and I have an extremely high pain tolerance when it comes to bondage. So I like to really push myself physically when it comes to that. And as far as the bondage that I like to do as a practitioner, it really depends on the person that I'm having an experience with. But the truth is that every single body is different, and every experience that I have with people, we negotiate it and cater it to that person so that, you know, we're both having a really good time. And if we want to build something more extreme or intense later, we can build upon that. There's something really beautiful about the aesthetics of power dynamics and how it has this overflowing effect into all aspects of our lives, where we're both trying to exit the vacuum of loss of autonomy and reality and regain inner confidence of that autonomy through sometimes extreme experiences. I love seeing that person sink into it and sink into that moment and start hitting subspace. They start really relaxing and they really just kind of they almost tune out to you a little bit. And that is a really beautiful experience to watch from the outside. And not only watching it as the top, knowing that I'm the person eliciting it, but having bottomed and submitted myself, I know how that feels. So I can I have almost this empathetic response sometimes when I'm watching people submit to me, because I'm I know how that feels. My desire to do blasphemy content does come from a place of respect and love for religious art and iconography. And I'm just using it as a medium, as a vehicle, as a plot device, if you will, to create the art and the symbology that I'm trying to create. I do believe that the videos that I make are art. I am very proud to call them art. I am not afraid to call them art, and I am not afraid to have anybody combat me on that status. I put a lot of myself into my work, obviously, because I'm directing it and performing it often. Personal responsibility is a characteristic that I look for in anyone that I would bottom for, anyone that I'm going to top for, because I understand what I'm going to do to someone, and I'm willing to take a certain amount of risk to do that. And somebody who's a really, really experienced player as a bottom is going to be okay, this is the amount of personal risk I'm willing to take, because some of these things that we do are actually dangerous. There are actual real physical consequences for some of these things. And not every person who has a fantasy, it actually aligns with the reality of what they actually want to happen to their bodies. And sometimes people, their eyes are bigger than their stomachs, and I think it's just really taking the time to suss both parties out, because I don't want a submissive who has no limits and no boundaries, because that's a recipe for a bad time. And you shouldn't want to work with or submit to a top that doesn't want you to have any limits or any boundaries. There has to be an environment for yes and no to evolve. I find that most tops who are having trouble sort of being mean or degrading or humiliating, they're often afraid of sounding silly or not sounding tough on camera, fumbling on their words or tripping over their words. And I'm at this point very, very good at ad-libbing, and I'm very, very good at just talking. You know, and like it just comes with practice. And ask them, yeah, does that make you feel like a little this or that? Does this make you feel submissive? Oh, you feel so helpless to me. You are so helpless to me. You are so vulnerable to me. Like telling them what they are, repeating the word me. You're doing this for me. You're submitting for me. You're taking it for me. You're doing it for me. Repeating it over and over, putting a person into that submissive state and reminding them that they're doing this act of surrender and submission to you is a great way to kind of take baby steps to get to that mean guy place, to play the bad guy. The best thing that I would tell someone if they're trying to find their niche, what's going to make them unique and stand out, is to absolutely not get your ideas from social media. I see so many ideas regurgitated, and I think that's like a very good way to make yourself not stand out. One of the biggest things that I would tell someone who wants to bottom and submit to people: don't ever tell a top that they can do anything that they want to you, that they can be as rough as they want to you, because like my idea of rough and your idea of rough could be two completely different things. You need to have a very clear idea of what you absolutely will not do. You know, because like a lot of times, as I mentioned, a lot of times adult performers are not always experienced in BDSM. So I do try to set a reasonable expectation. I'm like, I'm going to give you a BDSM experience, but as far as like being pushed to your limits and really testing yourself, we might not do that the first time, because I want you to understand what being bound feels like, what not being able to control the situation feels like, because it is different when you don't have as much control over what's happening. Trends always cycle, right? And there are certain things that are always going to remain in vogue. Anal sex is a reoccurring thing that is always a big theme, but within the last like year, I would say I've seen a lot more performers engaging in it. You know, POV is something that a lot of people like. That's not particularly my brand, and those types of videos don't sell very well for me, so it's just not something that I focus on. But I see a lot of people are very, very into jerk-off instruction, JOI, medical fetish, fisting, things that are more extreme penetration, are things that like I'm really focused on at this point in my content, and I've noticed that there is a greater interest in that. There's a greater interest in BDSM, and I've noticed a lot more people doing blasphemy roleplay. If there was one myth about kink and BDSM that I could end, is that I think with more extreme stuff that it has to be violent, that it has to be aggressive to be the most extreme, or it has to be very disrespectful to the bottom. And I just don't find that to be true or accurate of my sales and based on the kind of content that I like. I think that something extreme and intense can exist hand in hand with kindness and respect. Well, I hope that you guys had as much fun talking to me as I did talking to you. I hope that I have been able to encourage and inspire you on your kink and BDSM journey, whether you are the top or the bottom. And I hope you will continue tuning and gooning to my work.
Real Kink for Real People. Brought to you by Sunny Megatron and Clips for Sale.